Going.
Okay. So we are going to do the tutorial for this right here. This is a quilt as you go quilt, and that is about the top, a little over the top third of it done for mine. This is the pattern that I whipped up for it, and this is the yardage that you need for it. You don't have to get too awful close into this because I'm going to load this and this into the description portion. There will be a link for you to download this so that you can know what yardage you need to make either the 75 by 75 queen, which is 6 blocks by 6 blocks, or the 50 by 63 lap, which is 4 blocks by 5 blocks. I'm making the lap. And this is entirely quilt as you go. So, depending on which size, so if you're making 6 by 6, you need 36 blocks. If you're making 4 by 5, you need 20. I'm making the 4 by 5, as I've said before. So that means I need 20 of my backing blocks, squares. These are 12.5 inches square. This you won't find anywhere else. You need to write this down. This is 12.5 inches square, and you need either 36 of them for the queen or 20 of them for the lap, or if you're gonna make it bigger, however many you need, okay? Then you need the same number of 12.5 inch squares of batting. On your batting, you are going to mark a diagonal line from corner to corner. I used the Soline Styla pen, which is my favorite marking pen as of this point. So if you do Westerly ruler work, this tip will fit in between the crosshair square easily to do your markings, and it comes out with just a little bit of water. You just get it just slightly damp and it just goes away. So, and nothing ever comes back. So this is my current favorite marking pen. Anyway, okay, so on my batting, I've made a diagonal marking side to side. Then I made a marking a 1/4 inch above that diagonal marking. And I'll tell you why that is when we get into piecing it, okay? Then I come over to this side and I make from my center out to the corner. And you wanna make sure that this is level with your center mark so that you don't get off a little bit. Okay, so from your center to the corner, then you're going to go 1.25 inches to your center mark over this side, and then you're going to do the same thing on this side, 1.25 inches to your center line. So in effect, what you're marking out is where you're going to put your first 2.5 inch strip so that you get that centered properly. That's all you have to mark to do this. You're going to mark all of your blocks, and then you're going to take your block and you're going to put it on your background fabric. Line it up nice and neatly. We're not trimming these. If you were, of a mind to go trim everything down and make it bigger and trim everything down, you can do that. I did not do that. I made mine the size they're gonna be. Okay? So get that all there, centered on there. Then you're gonna take the yardage that you have of all of the different fabrics. I have 5 different colors that are gonna go this way, and I have 5 different colors that are going across here. So I have my 2 different colors. This is, which one's color 1? I've forgotten. Color 1 is the teal. So my color 1 are these. This is my color 2. And I used a graduated color wheel to kind of get this design that's gonna go on in here. If you wanna be scrappy, you can do that too, it doesn't matter. But you're gonna have 5 colors this way and 5 colors this way, and you're gonna cut 2.5 inch strips of all of them, of the yardage that I gave you, okay? Then, you're going to take your color 1, and you are going to line that up in between the two lines that you drew on here, coming out to the corner, and with the second line, so that is in effect your seam allowance line. Okay, so you're going to line this up like that. Then you're going to take your pair of scissors, and I'm going to use my gingers because I just plain like my gingers. So I'm just going to trim that right off. Then I'm going to get the second color that I'm using. Let's see if that's going to be big enough. Yep, that'll be big enough. Okay, I'm going to get the second color that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to lay it right sides together, right along the seam allowance for this one, and I'm going to start at the seam allowance line, which is your second line up here. And I'm going to stitch down, and I'm using gray thread. Oh, what a dork. We're going to change the thread. I will be right back. Hit the pause. Going? Yes. All right. So I switched back to my purple thread because I want my thread to match on all my blocks. Duh. So anyway, I got purple thread. Okay. And this, I'm going to trim right up to that seam line. Then I'm going to take my same color and I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to stitch it on this side. By the way, my 1/4 inch foot that I'm using has a 1/4 inch on both sides of the foot, so I don't have to turn this around if I don't want to. In case you did not know that and you have this particular foot, it is a 1/4 inch. Let me see here. It's a 1/4 inch from your needle to this outside edge, and it's a 1/4 inch from your needle to the inside of the left tongue as well. So you can just go from side to side if you want to. Okay. And I'm just going to rough trim this. We'll final trim it when we're done with the block. It is good to press. Make sure your seams are out as you go. That'll give you a nice flat block. Okay, now I'm going to take color number 3, which is this one. I'm not sure if that's going to be a big enough piece or not. Let me see. Yes, it will. Okay. Again, I'm going to start up at the seam line. Stitch straight down. Press over, make sure I'm covering everything. This one's not going to be big enough. Come over here, do the same thing. And press. That's not big enough. Okay, we're going to come with this color. It off. We're just rough cutting everything to the other side. And press. And I need to trim that off. I hope that's down enough. Yeah, it is. Okay, and then we've got our last color. Rough cut. Press these. And now we're going to start going the other way. So now we're going to take color number 1. And we can line this right up with the top edge of those fabrics because that's on our seam allowance. And do a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Make sure that I caught that one piece because it was going to be really close, and I did not. So I'll have to go back and fix that. But for right now, in the interest of time, we're going to keep going. Okay, we're going to press that down. And then we're going to continue going out this way with all the other colors that we have cut for this particular block. So you just line them up on the straightaway on this one. Stitch down, rough cut. And go to your next color. Press. And you notice I'm flipping it out before I do the rough cutting, because you don't want to cut it when it's back here, then you won't lay right. Right. And we'll put our last little piece on. And it's just going to be a tiny little piece in the corner. But that's okay. Okay. All right, so that's the block. It's stitched and it's quilted all at the same time. You would take it over to your cutting table and you're going to trim that even down all the way around. And then you have to put them together. So here's 2 blocks that I have already done and trimmed down. And you're going to look at your pattern as you put these together. You're going to look at your pattern and make sure that you've got these set up right. So I'm going to put this one like that, and I'm going to put this one like that. So these should go together like this. Okay, you're going to put these together with strips. You're going to have 2 strips. Shoot. And you're going to cut 2 different width of strips for these. So how this is going to work is on the front, you're going to put, and this is the width of the block, and it's 1 inch wide. On the back, it's going to be the width of the block and 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so I'm going to put the inch piece on the front and the 1.5 inch piece on the back. And I'm going to sew this on. Like so. And I'm going to press this out.
If they're worried, could they pin it or clip it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm notorious for not pinning.
No, she doesn't pin much.
But, you know, absolutely you can pin. Okay, then you're going to take the next piece that you're attaching it to, and again, make sure that you've got them facing the right direction for your secondary design. So you're going to take the next piece, and again, I've only ironed out the front strip. So I'm now going to attach the next piece to that front strip. So this is what it looks like on the front. So we're attached, just like those. Then you're going to come to the back and see how that the batting lays right next to one another, so you don't have a gap in there. See how that's butted right up? Okay, so on the back, we're going to take, because this is what was an extra wide piece, it was wider than the front, you're going to press down that extra 1/2 inch, and you're going to lay that over like so. And where's my, there it is. I'm going to use this. This is by Annie's seam tape. It is only 1/8 inch wide. It comes on a roll. You get yards and yards and yards of it on a roll. I'm going to put this right across here. And then I'm going to peel that paper up and press this down, and that's going to hold that in place so it doesn't move on me. Then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to stitch right in that seam line.
So virtually you're quilting it.
Yeah. And I'm attaching that back seam. And there is, by the way, a seam and a stitch in the ditch foot. I mean, I'm pretty decent at hitting that without the stitch in the ditch foot, but there is a stitch in the ditch foot. And what that does is that gonna attach that whole thing on the back like that. So you have kind of a grid on the back. And that is these two pieces now are put together. Like so. So I need to do two more pieces, two more blocks, fix this one, make one more, and then I can finish off this row, and then I'll take a long strip and put my row together with these long strips, not the short ones like I'm putting the blocks together, but I'll put the full length of it strip, which means you may need to piece some of your strips together to attach my row to that part. And it looks like that on the, whoops, it looks like that on the back. The other option is if you don't like this little lip hanging out, you can cut this the same width as the front, turn it under, and you could hand stitch all of this onto the back. And I'd rather swallow my tongue, so I don't want to do that. So I'm machine stitching it. That's why I made the back facing a little bit bigger than the front facing, so you can just turn it under and top stitch it. Okay?
What will you be doing for the binding?
I'm using this, the same color as my sashing for the binding. And you just bind it like
Just
normal.
2.5 inch or 2 1/4?
2 1/4. I do 2 1/4. But yeah, you just bind it like normal. I mean, it's going to be in effect a quilted quilt top by the time you're done. So
Right.
yeah, easy peasy, easy peasy, and it's pretty quick. It really is pretty quick. So make one. Enjoy. See ya.